Welcome to the case of the improper fraction when adding two fractions with like denominators. Welcome to today's court case where we're going to add two different fractions with like denominators to determine if they're guilty or not guilty of being an improper fraction. We're going to hear two different cases here today. Let's go inside of the courtroom to see what the verdict is. All rise. The Honorable Judge Taylor is entering the courtroom. You may be seated. Today's court case is case number 35240. It's the case of the sum of two fractions that have like denominators. We are going to determine if they're guilty of being an improper fraction. Case number 1. Raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Let's hear the opening statement from the prosecutor. Thank you, Your Honor. Let's begin by reviewing what we already know about fractions. First of all, a fraction is a number that's part of a whole. For example, let's look at the fraction 2/3. The number above the line in a fraction is called the numerator. The numerator tells us how many parts we have. In this case, we have 2 parts. We've colored both of those parts in orange. The bottom of the fraction is called the denominator. It tells us how many parts are in a whole. In this case, we have 3 parts. We also need to remember that a proper fraction is a fraction where the numerator is smaller than the denominator. That's because a proper fraction is less than one whole. We still have to color in one more part before the whole rectangle is completely colored in. An improper fraction is a fraction where the numerator is larger than the denominator. That's because an improper fraction is greater than one whole. We have one rectangle completely colored in and 2 colored in the second rectangle. When we add fractions with the same denominator, we keep the denominator the same and just add the numerator. Let's look at 2/5 plus 1/5. We add the numerators. 2 plus 1 equals 3. Then the denominator of our answer is 5 since the denominator stays the same. Therefore, 2/5 plus 1/5 equals 3/5. Here's why. Let's show this problem with a model, which is a picture. Draw a rectangle with 5 pieces since each denominator is 5. Next, we need to color 2 pieces of our rectangle to represent 2/5 of the rectangle since that's our first fraction. Then color in 1 piece of your second rectangle to represent 1/5. Add them together and watch the magic happen. 2/5 plus 1/5 equals 3/5. Now it's your turn to think about it, jury members. We're going to look at the problem 2/6 plus 3/6. Is the answer to this problem guilty of being an improper fraction? Pause the video, find the sum, and decide if it's a proper or improper fraction.
I very carefully examined the evidence and I've determined that you are not guilty of being an improper fraction. You are most definitely a proper fraction. Case dismissed.
If you said that 2/6 plus 3/6 equals 5/6, then you're correct. 5/6 is an example of a proper fraction because the smallest number, 5, is on the top and the largest number, which is 6, is on the bottom. So you're not guilty of being an improper fraction. Case number 2.
Raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Here's your next problem. 3/4 plus 2/4 equals what? Go ahead and add them together and then decide if you're guilty of being an improper fraction or not.
After listening to all of the evidence that's been presented today, I hereby determine that you are guilty of being an improper fraction. Your numerator is definitely larger than the denominator. You are hereby sentenced to becoming a mixed number.
When we add 3/4 plus 2/4, we get 5/4. That's an example of an improper fraction because the 5 is the largest number, it is on the top, and our bottom number is the smaller number. So now we're sentenced to becoming a mixed number.
I wonder how we change an improper fraction to a mixed number. I know, we can ask one of the expert witnesses for help.
Take a look at the top rectangle. It's completely colored in. That's one whole. Notice how I circled one whole. Now look at the second rectangle. We have 1 part colored in out of the 4 parts. So we get 1/4 as our fraction. When we put it together, we get 1 and 1/4 as our mixed number.
Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel or you will be found guilty. Case closed.